Now, to continue, we spent some time looking at reasons for looking at, first of all, the question of knowledge, and we started on to try to I started trying to motivate you to understand what at least some of the problems of epistemology have to do with. In particular, we took a look at the interrogation scene from The Matrix, and what we were trying to figure out is, what does Mr. Anderson, or Neo, the guy being interrogated, know during the interrogation? I mean, to us, and if he was actually there experiencing that, or you sometimes have this in a dream, it looks real. So you think there's a table there, there's an interrogator there, you're in a room, a whole lot of stuff. But when he wakes up, we discover, gee, he really didn't know any of that stuff. That was sort of one of these weird dream experiences which you've had. So this starts to give you reason for thinking that maybe you don't know all these things that you do and the things that you're maybe most certain about. So we mentioned, one of the questions in epistemology is, what is knowledge? We call that the analysis of knowledge, the components. But now we're concerned with and you certainly have to have an understanding of knowledge to be able to answer the next question is, does anybody really know anything? We talked about the earth being flat. In the old days, everybody thought they knew it. Well, gee, now we're, several millennia, several thousand years later, we found we all know the earth isn't flat, and maybe several thousand years from now, they're going to decide that all the stuff that we believe about science is wrong. And we talked about that example that you see the person in the distance and you're very much attracted to them, and you say, gee, this is a really attractive person. And as they get closer and closer, you say, boy, well, I guess I didn't know that one. And we were saying this is the problem of knowledge and skepticism. And I said, at least sometimes people think, we can know a whole lot of stuff, including things about the weather. It will not rain tomorrow. Something we might know. We might live, let's say we live in Arizona in the desert where it never rains. Never, or excuse me, never is an overstate. Very rarely. Whether they get a couple days, or let's say you live in a place in the desert where you get a couple days of rain a year. In certain seasons, you don't get any, and if there are no storm fronts coming in, it's not going to rain tomorrow. That we think, we're capable of knowing that. But certain things we know that we have no chance of knowing. Like, it will not rain on September 15th, 2100. Here we are in the year 2013. I had to think for a second what year we're in. I didn't want to be like the Vice President of the United States. But that's the kind of thing that we just don't have enough information. We don't know. So when we're talking about the problem of knowledge and skepticism in philosophy, we said skepticism is the view that you can't know things of a certain kind. So one of the things that we think skepticism makes sense about is skepticism about the weather 100 years from now doesn't make, skepticism about that is perfectly reasonable. So we noticed that's where we were with the problem of knowledge and skepticism. Let me try to get onto the right slide now. I don't know how my apologies. Fat fingers. Okay. And from there we went on and we read parts of chapter 1 in Russell's Problems of Philosophy, where he raises several questions about knowledge and skepticism, and he starts, asking us what things we think we can be certain about. Like, I'm sitting in a chair, there's a table in front of me, and he gives us a whole bunch that we looked at that seem pretty good candidates of things that we can be certain about. And ultimately, we decided that when you really look at it, we're not sure that what we're seeing is really the real object over there. And if it isn't the real object there, we don't have knowledge. So to kind of summarize the problem of knowledge and skepticism, or at least one version of this problem, is can we really know anything about the external world? And one related question is, and it's going to help us determine the answer to that first question, what is the basis, or what is the source of the knowledge of the external world that we think we have? And we said, if I can get it to come up, that one position you can take on that first question is skepticism. You don't have knowledge. You cannot have knowledge of the external world. We can't know anything. We might have some practical reason for believing it, but it's not good enough to give it, not strong enough evidence to give us knowledge. That's one position you could take. The other one is that you do have knowledge. It's what we call cognitivism. And it's the position that, yes, we do have knowledge about the external world. And we mentioned there are two flavors of cognitivism. One is something called, it's in parentheses, empiricism, because we have and empiricism is the view that the basis or the evidence that we have, or what gives us knowledge about the external world, is just our experiences, our sensory experiences. And the other view that people take is a view called rationalism, what's in parentheses. And this is a view that in order for us to have knowledge, all of our knowledge is ultimately derived from or based on reason, our ability to reason. Without our ability to reason, we can't have any knowledge.